Welcome back to Balancing Chaos with
Kelley
and Gretchen. And today we have our first remote guest. So you're our first test guest coming in from a remote location, Megan. So this is our first time doing this. So why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself?
My name is Megan Yockey. I'm actually Gretchen's cousin. We're going to talk a little bit about our nonprofit called Harpers Quest. And it was founded after my daughter was diagnosed with a rare genetic deletion. It didn't have a name at the time. It was called SOX5, but now it has a name. It's called Lamb-Shaffer Syndrome. I'm also a nurse. I'm a nurse practitioner. And so that kind of helped us in our journey. But that's a little bit about who I am.
Okay. Also, I think even though it's spelled differently, I almost find it a little interesting that it ended up being Lamb-Shaffer Syndrome.
I find it very interesting considering.
And so it's like a different spelling. Right, exactly. But I was like, oh, wow, that's really close. Interesting.
Yeah. Sure.
So can you tell us a little bit about how you ended up figuring out that Harper had Lamb-Shaffer Syndrome?
So everything was completely normal until about 1, and I'm a nurse. And so we're very in tune to what was going on. She rolled over at 3 months. She sat up at 6 months, crawled. And then we got to the pulling up and walking. And we noticed, all right, something's not right here. She's not really pulling up and her feet are really turned in. And then at that time, they kind of start talking, mom, dad, little utterances, and none of that was really happening. So we thought, all right, is this just her? Is it a second child? Like brother does everything for her, or is there something bigger going on? So we started with the foot doctor. Is something wrong with her feet? Her feet are flat and turned in. Is that why she's not walking? And they thought maybe, that could be why. And so we went to him for a while and started physical therapy. And then by like 19 months, she still wasn't walking. And we noticed her eyes were kind of doing some funny things. So we'd seen ophthalmology. And so after we'd seen all these doctors, so she really wasn't talking as much. And, some kids are just delayed. Again, second child. So everyone kept saying, well, I think it's just a second child. I think it's just a second child. And then she has these other little features, but nothing glaring. It wasn't like, oh my gosh, there's totally something wrong. So finally we kept going on and she really wasn't walking. She walked on her second birthday. And then, sorry, the phone's ringing in the background. So then after we kept going and she was only getting a few words and we weren't seeing a lot of progression, we finally decided, her eye doctor actually said, let's just go to genetics and see if there's anything else. She doesn't have anything glaring, but let's just do a chromosomal microarray and see if we can find anything. So that's what we did. We ended up at genetics. For Harper, we just did, it's called a CMA, a chromosomal microarray, and it looks at small pieces of all 23 chromosomes. And that's how they found hers. Not all kids are found that way. Some of the kids are having to have whole exome sequencing to find their deletions. It seems deletions are found most with the chromosomal microarray, but the kiddos that have mutations, they aren't just straightforward deletions. They aren't finding them without using the whole exome sequencing, which is actually a lot more expensive and hard to get covered by insurance than the microarray.
Did your insurance cover all of this testing? For
us, it did, but there's a lot of kiddos in our group that have had difficulty with that. Getting the insurance to agree to cover it, particularly the whole exome sequencing when they've done the microarray and found nothing.
So was all this testing, was it painful for Harper, or was it like as simple as a blood draw?
It's just a blood draw. So it was pretty easy. She's been stuck so many times that she just kind of sits there and takes it like a boss. But it's just a simple little blood draw. And then it came back for us. I think it came back like 4 weeks later. And then we got a phone call. I was actually standing in the middle of Hobby Lobby, which is like a craft store. Down here, she was actually at speech therapy when they called with their results. And so I stepped outside and she told me, and then of course I cried. But
they gave you the results over the phone?
Yes, and they acted like it wasn't that big of a deal.
Mm-hmm. So that couldn't have felt well.
No. Well, we fired our first geneticist. So
okay, and then where did you go from there? So now you knew what was going on.
So now we knew what it was, and then we met the next day with the actual geneticist, and she told us, this is what it is. We don't know much about it. There's only been 14 to 15 kids diagnosed in the literature. This is what it says about it up till I think the or at least article written about it. It didn't have a name at this time. It was still just SOX5. Was in 2012, and there was 12 or 14 kids in that sample. So then it went through and it said, this kid's deletion is this size and these are the features, and this kid's deletion is this size and these are the features, but there was no correlation between genotype and phenotype. So there was no correlation between what the genetic makeup was and the size of the deletion and the symptoms they expressed. There were some kids that had smaller deletions that had really severe effects, and there were some kids with bigger deletions that, the research article was showing that they didn't have a severe effect. So that was kind of perplexing. But at that meeting, she went on and on about how Harper will never be normal and she'll live with you forever. She'll maybe be able to pick up trash on the side of the road, things like that. Of course, I'm crying.
Was that the first geneticist?
The first geneticist.
Okay.
Yep. And so we finished that appointment. I went home and then I cried on the couch for 4 days, not knowing what to do, because you think, oh, she'll just grow out of it. We'll go to therapy. And then all of a sudden your life changes by a phone call. So then you have to figure out what to do about it. So my best friend and her husband are really good friends with one of the leading research geneticists in the country. He is actually moving back to Germany. He's currently at Texas Children's in Houston. And so they connected us with him. He called me personally and he got us in 2 weeks later. He has a 6-month wait. So we went down to Houston, met with him. He said, the same thing. We don't know much about it, but this is what we're going to do. We're going to find someone who wants to research this. We're going to use social media, and we're going to find answers. So it was a completely different meeting. It was very encouraging. He's very helpful. He's actually has a couple of things named after him. He's very into researching and finding things. He couldn't take the case, but by the time we got back to Austin, he had 3 people that he had found through his database research that were kind of working in that area of chromosome 12, like SOX5 to SOX9. So he sent me 3 emails. He said, hey, email these people and see what you get. And I did. And about a month and a half later, we got an email back from our now researcher. Her name is Veronique, and she is currently at Cleveland Clinic. The research is actually moving to CHOP, Children's Hospital of Philly, this summer. She accepted a new position there, and they have a huge autism clinic there, so it's really awesome. But so she emailed us back and said, I'd really like to take your research. And that's kind of where Harpers Quest was born, because we needed to fund the research and just make people aware of, at that time, was just called a SOX5 deletion. Now it has a name, Lamb-Shaffer Syndrome. So that is where Harpers Quest was formed, out of a need to fund research. And, it's very expensive to fund research. You have to raise money and, find results, get results together, and then try to get grants from your results and so on and so forth. So that's where Harpers Quest came from.
Kelley's nodding because she's a PhD researcher, so she knows that very well. So
yeah, it's not cheap.
It's not cheap, so and it's not free, and no one's going to take your case if you don't pay them, essentially, right?
Yeah, some people do free research, but if you want it to be really high quality, it comes at a price. Now, how old is she now?
She is 5. She'll be 6 in September. So she was diagnosed right before her 3rd birthday.
And does she go to school?
She, in Texas, I don't know how it is in other states, but in Texas, if they're diagnosed with special needs, they start school when they're 3 and they go for 4 hours a day. It's like an early learning environment, PPCD. And so she started at the elementary school when she was 3. So she would go from 7:45 to 11:45. And then we have her in a private preschool for the second half of the day. And then the school district takes her on the bus so she's with special needs kids in the morning and a couple of teachers' kids. And then she's with a general population, typical kids in the afternoon. And they kind of push her. And it's been really great. She's still doing that. She'll start kinder in the fall.
And the school that she's at is the same one that your son goes to, right?
Yep.
So it's just like an early childhood.
Yeah, it's called Early Learning Environment.
Wow. And it's free?
Yeah, well, yes, your property taxes pay for it. Yes.
It's publicly funded.
Because
that's amazing.
Texas doesn't have income tax, right?
No, we have income tax. We don't have state income tax.
Don't have state income tax. So they have a weird tax. That's why
so we don't have, we have really high property taxes.
Huh.
Right. So you got the diagnosis, you found a researcher, and then you decide to start this foundation. What was the process of starting the foundation?
So you kind of get everybody together and say, hey, we're going to do this, come up with a name. And then you have to find someone to do all the legal stuff with the IRS. So we found Michael's mom is actually the director. And so her friend is well-versed in starting nonprofits. It's kind of like what he does on the side. And so he did everything for us. And we did to get approval with the 501c3 status with the IRS. So that is a lengthy process. We did a rapid one. If your budget is under $50,000 the first 2 or 3 years, I hope I'm not misquoting that, they'll approve you a lot faster. It's not as lengthy of a process. So yeah, we just applied for everything, got our 501c3, and off we went.
So they did this one fundraiser that still cracks me up, the golf ball drop, which...
That was our biggest fundraising effort to date. We raised around $30,000 with that. So we sold golf balls that we numbered. We hand numbered them in the living room, and we hired someone. There's a Concordia University teamed up with us for this event. They're probably 10 miles down the road. So they let us use their baseball field. So at the end of the game, we hired a chopper, and we filled it up with golf balls, and someone would drop them out onto the field, and we had targets set out on the field. And so there was prizes. Grand prize was a custom golf cart. And so there was that, and then some gift cards and some Kendra Scott and some other things. And so whoever's ball got closer to target 1, 2, and 3 would win these prizes. And we raised close to $30,000 with that event. And there's videos on the Harpers Quest page of the chopper, circling down and hovering and dropping the balls. It was really awesome.
And it cracked me up because I've never seen a fundraiser like that. So in Maine, I think a more common one is the one with the cows. Do you know what I'm talking about?
No.
Do they do those in Texas?
No.
So have you ever seen the cow things or the goat things? So here's the main version of that. So this is I thought the helicopters are generally not involved in fundraising efforts in Maine, but the one the ones that I've seen around here where they take the soccer field and they mark off a grid and they let a cow wander around, and you buy a spot on the grid, and wherever the cow poops, you win.
Gross.
That prize.
I have never seen
You've
this.
never seen
Never.
it? They did it back home a couple of times. And
well,
so
you have special
it's
gin back
called
home.
cow patty bingo or something like that. So that's why it cracked me up, because it's of course in Maine we just put a cow on a field, but in Texas we have a helicopter hovering over a huge baseball game, and then the weather kind of screwed it up, didn't it? And
yeah, the initial we had to postpone it 2 weeks. So the initial I think it was supposed to be March 4th or something like that. I don't even actually remember, but yeah, we had to postpone it by 2 weeks because it was raining, and so the helicopter can't fly. So we postponed it. So that was there wasn't as many people at the game because I think it fell during spring break or something when we initially had to redo it. But we raised $30,000. We funded research. We got a small grant from the Lerner Research Institute, which is where the research is currently. So between those two things, that event and the in-house grant that we got, we were able to start research. So we've actually come really far. They've actually taken the gene out of the mice. And it's funny because the mice that have the gene missing are exhibiting some of the traits that our children are. We just had a research update. So anxiety and balance issues and things like that, not trouble eating solid food. Harper didn't have the food issue, but a lot of the kiddos have, muscle tone, not being able to eat solid food until much later. And the mice with this deletion or mutation are exhibiting the same features. It's really amazing, actually.
One of the things that I think has been really interesting to watch too, and of course I'm watching this from 2,000 miles away, is the way you have found other families with this deletion. And it seems like a lot of it happens through social media.
Pretty much all of it has happened through social media. And it's funny because that is what the second geneticist, the one who is our geneticist now, that's what he said to us: use social media. That's how you're going to find people. And so when we started the SOX 5 Lamb-Shaffer support group page, and then we found some other families, and then her name is also Megan. She is a guiding force in this as well. She started the Lamb-Shaffer.org page and manages that. I help her with it, but she is the brainchild of that. And so we've met a lot of people across this country that have become really good, close friends, and we're all fighting for the same thing that otherwise we never would have met. So, and it's all through social media.
Didn't you find that there were people even locally?
Yes. Actually, the first geneticist who we fired diagnosed another family a month after us and never even told them that we existed, that she'd ever seen it before. Like, a physician should say, hey, I have another patient with this. Let me see if, HIPAA and everything. Let me contact them and see if they're willing to talk to you, and kind of no, nothing. We met them through social media a couple of months after. So, we met all the awesome people through social media, actually.
Gretchen said that you are a Christian, and how has your faith played into the diagnosis and your quest to, learn more about the disease?
I think mutation? It helps keep you from digging yourself into a big hole of, my life is never going to be normal. What are we going to do? Oh my gosh, I can't believe this happened to me. And it pulls you back to a position for us. We always say God gave her to us for a reason, because there was a purpose. And I cannot believe, I'll be driving and I'm like, I really can't believe that God gave me this task to lead this mission, to do all this. This is really overwhelming. I'm not qualified for this, seriously. So I think that's the big thing. I feel like our faith has kept us grounded and able to look forward, that it's not going to be the end of the world. Is it challenging? Yes. Is it what you picture when you are pregnant and thinking about, oh, my little girl, when she gets married or has kids, and, those things might not happen. And it's hard. It's still hard on a daily basis. But if we didn't have God, I don't think we would have gotten through it, and our marriage probably would have already dissolved, honestly. So Michael, my husband, they called me first. I called Michael second and said, they found something. This is what it is. And I think even before I called my mom, I called our small group pastor at church and said, can you please come to our house? We're not going to make it. And so, it's played a big role.
I know another mother who has I can't remember what her son has, but it's another rare genetic disorder, and she has this awesome poem, and I wish I would have thought to get it from her, but I'll find it.
Find it and we'll put it in the show notes.
Oh, it's so amazing, and it kind of talks about what you're saying about, you have this vision, when you're having the baby shower and you have the baby, and we all have these preconceived notions about what life is going to be like at each stage with our children, and then when you get the diagnosis that you're not expecting, that all changes. But it's such a beautiful poem. And also she's really strong faith, and she always talks about how that's really kept her through, because it's so overwhelming.
Yep. There's days where you just want to cry, but you just have to keep going. And, it could be so much worse. Yeah. It could be so much worse. But yeah.
Now for the research, are they just right now looking at the symptoms that the mice are exhibiting based on various levels of mutation? Are they starting to look at environmental interventions, and does that mitigate symptoms? Or
so right now they're just taking the taking that part out in the mice and seeing if they're exhibiting the same symptoms as our kiddos, so they know that they have them where they want them to be, and then they're going to try doing different things to them to see if it enhances the symptoms. Not enhances, sorry, that's not the best way to see if it overcomes the symptoms. That's probably the best way to explain it. So if we do X, Y, and Z, will that make the part of the gene that is still present work more efficiently to overcome what's not there? Did that make sense?
Because I just wonder when they that, since you said that they do know that the amount of gene, just mutations on the gene, or the percentage of the gene missing doesn't correlate with the symptoms.
Yeah, there's really as we find more kids, the researcher is able to, she has, worksheet of each kid and where their deletion is. And then we're starting to compile symptoms. But from what is already published in literature, there's just no rhyme or reason. It's, how much therapy are the kids getting? And situation at home. Or Harper also actually has celiac disease, which we found last August when we were having difficulty potty training her. And as soon as we took the gluten out of her diet, which she actually has celiac, so it made a huge difference. As far as like speech, we were sitting with her GI doctor a month after diagnosis, and I'm like, I know you're going to think I'm crazy because the whole world with the gluten and everything now, and people deciding they can't eat gluten, said she actually has celiac. So I'm going to tell you this. I said, we took the gluten out because she has celiac, and her words increased exponentially, and she was able to like talk in sentences, and she just changed for the better.
Oh, I am so obsessed with this concept of food and how it affects every health condition. I mean, we do not take it as seriously as we should. I mean, and I know everyone's on the gluten hype, but it could be dairy, it could be tomatoes. I mean, it could be anything that affects, that's having a negative effect on all sorts of symptoms that you'd never think. And we do not take it as seriously enough in our healthcare system.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. So the gluten for her really, really helped. Will it help everyone? I don't know. But for her, it 100% did. Once her gut started working right.
How, you have an older son. How is it having a special needs kid with an older sibling who is typical?
I feel bad. I think we feel bad for him sometimes that he has to, she has so many appointments and doctor's visits and therapy that he has to deal with it. But it's actually taught him a lot of really amazing things. Last year in second grade, he was asked to like be an ambassador to the special needs kids at their elementary school. And so he would go in with like the older kids and like once a week and work with them and do projects with them. So he's had a firsthand look into being more compassionate towards people who may not be quote unquote normal. I mean, who's normal, right? But he's definitely had a firsthand look at that. And, he's very protective of her. And so it's a good learning experience for her, but we also make sure that we do something special for him. At least once a year, we take him on a little trip that's just him. He's a baseball player and really into baseball. So last year we took him to Boston, just my husband and him and I for 3 nights. So we try to do that once a year. We're going to go to Chicago this year, just to give him some one-on-one time and make him feel special and not like he's, secondhand citizen because Harper needs so much attention.
Does your husband stay home? Does he stay at home with the kids, or do you both work full time?
We both work full time, but I work at night. And so it works out. He owns his own business. So he works from home. So he's here, but he doesn't quote unquote stay home. I actually am starting to cut down my hours to be home more because she's starting kindergarten. So she's going to need more help. But I work at night. So I'm here a lot more than it's a blessing that I can work at night.
Mm-hmm.
She loves her night schedule. She tried to explain it to me one time and I was lost.
Can she get some of the therapies at school?
Yes. So at school, she gets speech, PT, and OT. And then we do speech privately. And we used to do PT privately, but we quit doing regular standard physical therapy where it was just like a one-on-one with a therapist. And we, with the approval of her physical medicine doctor, put her in she's dance on Wednesdays and gymnastics on Saturdays. And it has helped leaps and bounds with her physical mobility and coordination, and especially just being with her other peers. So she's able to like be in a group setting. So it helps with like listening and following directions and being with other kids. And it's not just a one-on-one thing. So yeah, she gets lots of therapy.
That's great. So what sort of deficits does she have right now?
Her biggest is speech delay, I would say. She's talking in full sentences, but she's definitely delayed for her age. She has some coordination issues. And it's hard to test cognitive ability in a 5-year-old. So it's kind of hard to say. She did count to 30 at dinner last night. So it's hard to say.
That's great. Huh. Well, she was so fortunate to be born to a family like yours.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, my gosh.
Well, and that's the thing is that it's, you have in your family, Megan, so you have 2 very educated parents who have very educated friends who have those connections. Mm-hmm. And it's so that's amazing for you guys. And it almost makes you wonder where these children are who don't have those connections.
I agree completely. I know.
You know, so how lucky are you to have people that you can call and be like, you know, that and not by any, not because you stockpile these people, but I think that the friend you're talking about is the one from childhood, right?
Yep.
Yeah. So it's just like, because you were friends with her when you were 5 years old, and because she married somebody who knew somebody, you have these connections. It's pretty amazing.
Well, being a Christian, I think when you look back on it, God sets that all up.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
And you look back and you're like, oh, I get it now.
And she kind of didn't get married till later, right?
Mm-hmm.
So has she reconciled that? Is she like, oh, this is why I didn't get married till later? I was waiting for this guy who was going to be the person that unlocked.
I'm sure she has. She's a Christian as well.
So when you say you're funding the research, do they basically apply for a grant from you and you write them a check, or do you just send them the money? How does that work?
So we got the research team got the in-house grant from the Cleveland Clinic is the Lerner Institute of Research. And so they got an in-house grant for $50,000. And then we just supplemented the difference to be able to hire a research assistant and get stuff going. And so it'll probably come out in the next 3 to 4 weeks. We're working on a paper to be published with the current research and where they're at. And then they're going to use that to try to get some bigger research to fund, some bigger grants, to fund further research, more money, more progress. So
is this the only thing that your researcher focuses on, or is this part of other projects that she's working on?
I think she works on a couple of other things at the same time, but all generally in the same region. But there is one research assistant that works solely on SOX5.
Wow. That's pretty amazing.
That's so interesting.
And that research assistant is going to be moving with her to CHOP along with all the mice.
I wonder if the mice came from here, because that are you familiar with Jackson Lab?
No.
So it's the world's leading mouse breeder for medical research.
Oh, I'll have to ask her.
Mm-hmm.
Where did our mice come from?
Yeah, so and they like genetically engineer all these mice for different things for research, and it's world renowned. It's in Bar Harbor.
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
There's a lot of people that actually live in Bangor that they have a shuttle bus that drives people to the lab because Bar Harbor is so expensive to live at.
Oh, right.
So they have like a commuter bus that leaves from our neighborhood actually and drives to Bar Harbor every day to Jackson Lab. So maybe some of your mice have a little bit of Maine flavor.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to have to ask her. That's very, I had no idea. I don't even know where you buy research mice, but there you go.
Not at Petco.
No.
I wouldn't be surprised.
So tell us about your fundraising effort.
So the next thing we're doing, there's a local, she's actually nationwide now, but she started in Austin, Texas. Her name is Kendra Scott. She's really awesome. She's a big philanthropist. I've actually met her in person a few times. We partnered with her right when we started Harpers Quest and did a fundraising event with her, and she gives back 20% of all proceeds from the event. And so they actually approached us the beginning of March to see if we'd like to partner with them again. And I thought they just wanted us to do, one little event in the store. It's called Kendra Gives Back. And they do that periodically throughout the month with different organizations. So Harper and I went down after speech one day and met with them, and they gave us a booklet of stuff, and they asked us to host the big summer launch party. So this is the launch party for her new line that's coming out. And it's going to be April 18th is when it is released. And so we are hosting, Harpers Quest and Kendra Scott together are hosting the big summer launch party. So all the new stuff that she's designed for the summer will be released that day. So it's going to be a big party. There's going to be food and drinks. And so people that aren't in town in Austin, it's going to be at the flagship store in LAMAR. But people that really like Kendra Scott or really want to donate, you can call in. Let me give you the number. So it's going to be from 5 to 8. So you can call in during that Central Time, 5 to 8 Central Time. So if you call in during that time to place an order, it'll be shipped for free to your home. They have told me that if you call in during the day outside of those hours if it's more convenient, and just let them know, hey, I want my purchase to go towards Harper's Quest. They'll accommodate that. But the actual hours of the party are from 5 to 8. And so the number to reach the Austin store that we're going to be at is 512-879-3422. And then if you want to check out the stuff, they'll post all the new jewelry that's going to be released that day on the website. You can't order from the website because they can't track it. But so you have to call in, but you can shop online and call in to order at kendrascott.com.
And the last time they did this was, I think it was 2 years ago.
Mm-hmm. Yep. It was
because
I getting fundraising rolling for Harper's Quest.
And so I have a pair of earrings that I got from there that I love. And they shipped them to my sister's house, and my sister got some too. And so we had them shipped to Colorado. So we wore our earrings all week, our Harper earrings, which is what I refer to them as. So I have to go look through the catalog again and see what I can order this time.
They have tons of new stuff. And then I've seen the new stuff. The picture that's on our Facebook page, the earrings that the model is wearing, those are some of the new stuff. It's going to be very colorful stuff. The new stuff, they're still going to have their classic stuff. They have lots of really basic stuff all the way to like statement pieces. But I really like her stuff. And like I said, she herself is a very big philanthropist. She gives back a lot to our community and all over the country.
Awesome. And we will put all this information on our Facebook page, and I'll put it up there on the day of to poke people, to remind them of that, and put it on our show notes as well. So what would be one thing that you would want people to know about having a special needs child?
That it's not the end of the world, and your child will teach you more than you ever thought possible. And you'll look back. I mean, I just look at Harper on a daily basis, and she makes me laugh. She is hilarious. And it's hard. Yes, but I wouldn't change her for the world. It makes you a better person.
So my Harper story, and I'm going to, if you want me to cut this out afterwards, just tell me, Megan. Oh. But when we went, and for October, 2 years ago, I took the girls down and we stayed at Megan's house to visit my grandmother, and which was going to be the last time, which we kind of knew. But all the kids were basically, they were I think it was like your doorstop or something. And it made a fart noise, and she kept doing it to make the fart noise, and then she'd laugh. And I was like, this is like the most neurotypical thing a kid can do, is make a fart joke. Yes. And she kept doing it, and it cracked me up because she wasn't very verbal at that time, but she still knew how to make a room laugh by making a fart joke. So Megan, if you want me to remove that, I can remove that.
No, you totally don't have to. And now she can say the word farted. So when she does, she goes, I farted, and she laughs.
That's so funny. Anyway, I remember just being like, oh yeah, this, she knows exactly how to work a room here. This is great.
Oh yes, she does.
So to piggyback off that question, what advice would you give to parents who don't have special needs children about how they should teach their children to interact with special needs children?
Just teach your kids that not everyone is cookie cutter and everybody's different, and just be compassionate towards others and help others. And just because you see a kid that looks different, be kind, always be kind. We were at Disney at Christmas time this year. Actually, it was New Year's, and Braden, my son, we were in the Animal Kingdom in like the Dino Land, and he was playing these like carnival games and won all these stuffed animals, and he wanted to give them away to other kids. He didn't want to bring them all back. And so he went and found kids to give them to, and he actually found a special needs kiddo that was in a wheelchair, and he gave him the stuffed animals. So it's definitely taught him to be more compassionate towards others. So just compassion.
Mm-hmm. Great.
All right. So we always end our podcast with a favorite thing. So do you have your favorite thing, Megan, that you'd like to share with us?
My favorite thing, this is going to be really sad, but wine, red wine.
Do you have a favorite wine? Like, are we going red, white, rosé? What are we talking here?
Cab all the way. In fact, my wine shipment from our Pacific trip came this week, and Michael said, "Oh, it's like Christmas for Megan."
Do you have a favorite wine to recommend?
Oh, there's so many good ones. I don't know.
Okay. I didn't know if you had any like Texas winery that you wanted to pitch.
Oh, there's a lot of good wineries here. I don't know. I can't pick just one. If I had to pick just one that's local, I'd say Becker. But the place that I get the wine from, this teeny tiny little mom and pop winery that I get the shipment from, it's in Paso Robles, and it's called Autry Cellars, and it's amazing.
All right. Awesome. What about you, Kelley?
So one of my favorite podcasts is How I Built This. And they actually did an episode on Kendra Scott.
Really?
And yes, and how she started. So I love that podcast. It's really inspiring too, because it talks about people's challenges through starting a business, and it's incredibly motivating. But anyhow, they did a whole one on Kendra Scott, and she was featured. So I recommend everyone listen to that too.
Cool.
Yeah.
So mine's going to be a little bit more broad. So I'm just going to recommend the library, because this week we've had a lot of library stuff with my kids, and Ingrid found a new author that she really liked, and the local library didn't have all the books, but interlibrary loan, you can just do interlibrary loan and they bring you books from wherever. So I'm just going to do a little pitch for the library. The other thing too, that it kind of ties back, if you are somebody who's looking for this research, a lot of times your local library will have access to these databases that Kelley and I have access to them because we work in academia. But if you're not in academia, you'll go to read an article and it will pop up and say, oh, you need to pay $1,000 a day to access this information. A lot of times local libraries will have access to those, and your research librarian can be your best friend. And if you know me and you find a citation and you're wondering if you can get the article, I can always look and see if I can print out a copy for you too. But that's one of the
That's a really good tip. I hadn't even thought of that, because I have access, through my job too. I can look up and find
right.
I actually was
that's one of those privileges.
I was doing some searches looking for something, and I'm the one that found that they actually named our disorder, and I sent the article to our researcher, and she's like, how did you find this before me?
Yeah, when you have an inquisitive mind. When you have an inquisitive mind and all of that, the library is a really good place to track down information, and even information that sometimes seems out of reach to the general person, that they can help you get that information.
Yeah, for sure.
Well.
And they can pull some of the articles, if they don't have them, when they go to pull them from another library, they can have them within an hour.
Oh, yeah.
It used to be a week wait or something like that. I've never waited that long.
And there's so much research out there that's out there that is beyond a Google search. And so we all know this as being people who have looked in the journals, but there's so much out there beyond. You're probably not going to find Lamb-Shaffer Syndrome in a Time magazine article. You're going to find it in, New England Journal of Medicine or something like that.
Yep.
Well, Megan, thank you so much for joining us today, because we really appreciate you coming on, our first remote guest. And I'll put all the information about the fundraiser and all the links and stuff you mentioned about the Lamb-Shaffer Syndrome and Harper's Quest, of course. I'll add that information to our show notes.
And I hope to meet you when you come to Maine next time.
Yes, when you come to Maine next time, you have to meet Kelley, because I was literally thinking it through, and I can't even believe I forgot about the dog.
Yeah.
Because I was like, oh, right, they even have the same kind of dog. They should just hang out.
I love my golden doodle so much.
Ours has lots of energy. She is pretty adorable. Still. She's a little over 1.
Whoa, they're about the same age. Lottie's not quite 1, but she's full of it.
Yeah, she has energy, but she does say sit when I go over there.
She does, yeah.
Ours is a mini. Is yours a mini?
No, she's a standard, I guess. I don't know. I didn't know they were different.
Full grown now. She's 25 pounds.
Okay, yeah. I think Lottie's probably 50 pounds.
She's big.
She's
really
a big dog. Tall legs. She can jump over the sofa. It's crazy. She looks like she's bigger than she is. She only weighs 25 pounds, but her legs, she's like all legs. It's crazy.
Yeah, one of my good friends lives in Maryland. Actually, I thought she was in Texas. She was in Texas before because her husband's in the military, so she travels around a lot. But anyhow, she said her neighbor has a mini golden doodle, and she wanted to get a mini one.
One of my friends on Facebook has a teddy bear, which is fits in your hand. It's crazy.
I've actually have seen those ones.
Yeah, those are tiny.
Cute.
I don't have any. I have no golden doodles at all. But actually, after hanging out with Kelley's, we're like, all right, if I were to get any dog, this would probably be like the best one to get. It's pretty cool.
It's awesome. I mean, they don't smell.
And they don't shed.
They don't shed. They're actually, if you had time to really train them, they'd be incredibly smart because she's so smart.
Yeah.
I mean, considering we don't train her at all, and she's relatively well behaved.
Yes, she
So.
is. All right. Well, awesome, Megan. Thank you for taking time. And if you have enjoyed listening to this podcast, then you can go ahead and tell 2 friends, like us on iTunes, like us on Facebook, leave us a review, all of that stuff. And we will be back next week. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.